In our health lead, before deranged social media conspiracies about President Trump's health, some even speculated over the weekend that he had died. Newsflash, he's fine. White House reporters and other observers were paying attention to some very real developments when it comes to the health of our 79-year-old president. And joining us now, CNN chief medical correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta. So Sanjay, sticking to the facts here, we have seen pictures of Trump's hands. He has had bruises on his hands. And we've also seen pictures of swollen ankles. These are all, legitimate photographs and actual things. What is going on here?
Yeah, if I can, just for a second, Jake, a little preamble. When we've approached things like this, and I've been doing this a long time, obviously we see the same things that the public is seeing here. A couple things. We hear from his doctors because we want to rely, as you're pointing out, on data, evidence, and facts when it comes to the president's health. We do talk to a team of other doctors as well, emergency room doctors, cardiologists, gerontologists, vascular surgeons, to also weigh in on what's going on with the president. But so when you specifically talk about his ankles and his hands, for example, something people have noticed, what his doctors have said is that this is due to something known as chronic venous insufficiency. Basically, the blood is not leaving the extremities as well as it should, and he gets swelling. It's not uncommon. Over the age of 50, about 5% of adults have it. As you get older, he's going to be 80 next year. Even more people have it, close to 25% of people, according to some studies. So my point being is that it tracks. We see this, what you're seeing on the screen there. They call it chronic venous insufficiency. That tracks. That makes sense. With his hands, that bruising, people who are older can get a condition known as actinic purpura. Basically thin skin on the back of the hands. If you've had a lot of sun exposure, that can worsen it. And it makes those blood vessels underneath the skin very, very delicate and prone to bleeding. And when you bleed like that, because the skin is so elastic, it causes pretty significant bruising, which can look alarming, but a small amount of blood in that space can do it. So again, that tracks. And that is based on what we're hearing from his doctors. And then sort of like just putting it through the sniff test with other docs as well, ER doctors, cardiologists, gerontologists, vascular surgeons. So that's, when we look at these sorts of things, that's how we approach it. What we've been told by his doctors seem to make sense. They say that the bruising on the back of the hand is a result of aspirin use, lots of trauma to the hand from handshaking, they say, but also just older skin. Can look like that over time, Jake.
What more do we know about his health? He was the oldest president to ever be sworn in.
Yeah, well, so, we have basic facts. We haven't gotten the same amount of information about President Trump as we have from some presidents in the past, but we obviously know his age, we know his weight, we know his blood pressure. We know that he talked a lot about the cognitive testing, this screening test for cognitive decline, the Montreal Cognitive Assessment Exam, say that he got a perfect score on that. And then as I was talking about his skin having sun damage, we know he takes certain meds. We know in the past he's had testing that showed evidence of heart disease, but he is taking statins and cholesterol-lowering medications, and again, that aspirin that I mentioned earlier. But that's kind of all we really know, Jake. There hasn't been a lot that has been forthcoming. I will say, again, having covered him, going back to 2016, you've sometimes heard some really hyperbolic things as well about him. He could live to be 200 years old, for example. So it's challenging because we want to rely not on speculation, but on substance. So I think, obviously, he's not going to live to 200, but trying to find that line in terms of reporting, I think, is really important.
Yeah, and also there's no law mandating that the president has to disclose anything. And while President Trump may have disclosed more this year than he has in the past, especially when he was running last year, there's still a lot of questions, and there is not a full disclosure of everything going on with him or with any previous president.
No, I got to tell you, again, I've been doing this for 25 years. John McCain, you may remember, Jake, back in 2008, was the only candidate at that point to release all of his medical records. And he basically gave us a room in Arizona, said, here are all my medical records. You can have access to them for a certain number of hours. It's like pages and pages. And, I went through all that. But most candidates or presidents, if they become president, have not released their entire medical records. So this is not unusual. Usually we just get these summaries, Jake.
Yeah, Congress should pass something for future presidents requiring it. That's my opinion, having written that Biden book about lack of disclosure. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You got it.